Hi everybody, welcome to our 4 o'clock live. I am here with my dear friend BZ.
Oh yeah.
How are you?
I'm great,
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here. Thank you so much.
Of course. You guys, it's Casual Friday. I'm in full effect of Casual Friday.
I love it.
I'm actually on vacation after we finish this until the 29th.
Oh yeah.
So I've been with The Edge for 18 months now.
Yeah?
And this is the first full week vacation.
Oh.
So really excited.
So we'll make this super brief.
Yeah, no, I love you. We're going to chat. But it's so important to have that self-care.
Oh, amen.
You know, and
Amen.
that balance and that time for yourself to decompress. And
Absolutely.
And what we do, it's a very fulfilling, amazing job. I wouldn't want to do anything else. I don't even call it a job. It's my lifestyle.
A passion, a calling.
Yeah.
I mean, all the things that we love. So I know for my staff, I feel a lot of time it's, I tell them, hey, I would, as long as we can get you guys covered and we're not upsetting the guest flow, I want you guys to take off. You know, we don't work to live. I mean, we don't live to work, we work to live.
We work to live.
And that's important to me. It took me some years to figure that out.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I have a good balance. So I'm stoked for you that you get to get out of town. And I know for what we do, especially, man, go play, get away.
Yeah.
Even for my sober livings, I've always felt, house managers, it's a volunteer gig and it can be all overarching and 7 days a week, blah, blah, blah. But, for my managers, I've always felt like, you guys, you might not be able to go somewhere, but I don't want you on at least 2 days a week. I want you to just lay it down and let your co-manager, co-mate, support you in that time, so you can just be free from this stuff, because I
love that.
It's so much.
Yeah, it is so much. A lot of people know who you are. You are a legend.
God,
you
that's
really
so
are.
nice.
For the people that don't know BZ, he is a legend. Honestly, though, you are by far one of my favorite human beings. We met in a way that we weren't meant to meet.
Right.
We were meant to meet, but totally. You know what I mean? The way it happened, divine intervention. But I immediately felt connected to you. After we talked, I'm like, that's my boy. We're going to be friends.
Amen.
And
friends for life.
Yeah, friends for life.
Yeah, that connection. I mean, if you find it, and I feel fortunate to, especially nowadays, having been doing this for 14 years, nowadays, especially more and more of the crew that are in and doing what we do are all about it. It's not about the other things which drove so many people for so many years. So I find, when I get the time to get in front of someone awesome, it's like there's more opportunity for connection, where in the past it was like, I don't know you, and I don't know where you're from, and I don't know what you're about, and so but I mean, I for the most part stay in my little bubble down in South Orange County. Yeah. And just focus on my people and the crew and the community and my family. So I actually don't know as many people as I guess I should for being around for so long, but that's mostly because I just try to keep my head down.
But that's a good thing, and you got South Shores, you got so many things going on that I want to get into. But just to kind of give a backstory, because your story is amazing. It is so inspiring, and it warms so many people's hearts when they hear it. I watch people when you've told your story and they're like, wow, that is so cool. How this came to be for you and how you found God and your journey into sobriety. Right. So if you could take us back to when you got sober and that journey that you went on.
I was reading your thing, and I realized by reading your blurb for this live, I was like, oh my God, I'm 5 years off of whatever you got to read or find the press for the 27 years. I'm coming up on 32 years sober.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. January 18th, 1990, after a couple rehab stints in hospital settings up in LA, January 18th, 1990, figured I'd try it. I was like, I just didn't believe the steps were going to work in any way, shape, or form. I couldn't figure, when I'd look at them on the wall in the center in the rooms, how these 12 steps, and 12 traditions could, why they would have any possibility of keeping me away from the things that I wanted to do. And but I was so done that last time. I was just like, well, whatever. I'm just, I'm going to do these steps. I'm going to for sure get loaded when I'm done. And I'm going to walk into the rooms and say, yo, it don't work.
You're one of those, yeah.
I am one of those guys. And I'll be damned if I worked the freaking steps and, had a little crew. I mean, I was 20, I was young, and there wasn't a lot of us youngins up at the North Hollywood group, Radford group, up in LA. And I think there was like 8 of us amidst like everybody who was 50, 60, 70. And they didn't want to hear nothing from us. And
the old timers.
Oh, the old timers. They were like, just shut up and sit down. And honestly, that was probably good for our crew. So we hung tight, and we did our steps, and we just got to hear some great wisdom in the rooms, and that really, helped to set me up for success to the degree that, I finished my steps and had that spiritual experience, that psychic change, of which, became one of many over the years of, learning how to work these things in my life, trying to go from no higher power whatsoever. Like, I think my first inroads into a higher power, because I was an atheist and didn't believe in God, was my sponsor just telling me, the only thing you need to know about God is you're not it. And I was like, oh yeah, and it was so simple and profound. And then I think after the first year of sobriety, and he was like, I knew I needed a little more. He said, well, just believe that I believe.
I love that. Just believe that I believe.
And that was helpful, that in the rooms for several years, plus a lot of fun. I mean, my little group of like 8 to 10 of us, we hung tight and we stayed sober, and we went to meeting after meeting after meeting, and we'd go dancing 3 or 4 nights a week, just to go have fun. Like all the things we, wanted to do living life, but never did when I was, stuck in a room smoking crack or whatever it was I was doing. Things I thought about doing but never did. And now I was doing them, and I was living them, and the steps were helping me to find freedom and more things than I ever wanted. And that's, yeah. So
those key components, it sounds like you really had to find that sense of community.
Yeah.
That you weren't going to be able to do it on your own.
Totally.
And having that community, having that light go on. What do you think it was? Was there like an actual moment that you can identify, or was it a series of events where you had that awakening?
From a community standpoint, I think, I don't think I think it took several years for sure. Like a lot of us, an abused kid, abandoned, rejected, running around my little neighborhood and finding connection, not even realizing that I needed belonging so desperately, trying to be hard when, we weren't really hard, we were just scared kids. And yeah, I think that inroads into that first, it was just so deep and impactful, that group of young men and women that I surrounded myself with in the early days, up until 7, 8, 9 years sober. I'm still friends with, several of them, still get to see them in the flow, but man, it was just, yeah, I don't think I really understood how important community was till many years later, until it was kind of like what I was known for, and I was like, oh.
So that journey, like it was a true journey for you. Things don't happen overnight, just like our addiction.
Yeah.
Everything that we went through as children, it happens over a long period of time.
So that's so true. You hear it early on in the rooms about or even my initial rehab was, the layers being peeled.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound very fun. And, especially, when you're in your 20s and you're just like, let's just peel this sucker and be done and go.
Yeah.
And so, and it was, God's so good, and just how he does it. Like, you don't even realize he's doing it, and you're just, whoa. And I think for me, I remember being 7 years sober and having a really good life, but just not fully free, and not fully just finding all that there could be. And I was noticed on my peers were passing me by, and the only thing it seemed was missing from my view was that I couldn't believe in a power greater than myself, that I couldn't believe in a good and loving God in light of all that I'd experienced, all that I'd seen. I was so rational in my mind and looked at all the different ways in which God wasn't real or existed, that it just couldn't be, and it was one more time faltering and failing at relationships, both romantic and not, that I realized at 7 years sober, like I gotta find, this isn't going to work anymore, and I got to find something more for myself. So that put me on a 3-year journey where I was like, okay, I'm going to look to see if there's a power greater than myself. This God thing. I will not be a Christian. I will not be a Christian. It's not going to happen. The Christians have been, jackasses to me and my own family and my life, my whole life. They don't even believe what their founder says. They don't even follow what he does. Like, I don't want nothing to do with that. But I'll try a bunch of things. And I think I read through some of the Buddhist tenets, and I went through crystals, and I did this whole crystal peace thing, and just trying to, big old guy like me, and it was all good. Like I said, it was just open. The beauty of the program is it opened me up that I just really wanted. I wanted a higher power. I was like, just show me you're real, and I'm down. And I remember religious science. I liked religious science. It was that all religions are spokes that lead to the hub of this universal mind, this God, this whatever. And I thought, that's very fluffy and nice. That's very cool. I like that. And a big author that 12-step spiritualist is oh gosh, what's his name? I'm failing me. Sermon on the Mount. He wrote Sermon on the Mount. He's a great AA spiritualist, but he was a big writer for religious science. And he believed that Jesus was a great teacher, but not God. And for the first time, so I was reading his book, Sermon on the Mount, and I was seeking openly, and I started reading the words of Jesus specifically, as outlaid in I guess from the Bible, but he transposed them obviously into his book, and I was just like, wait, that's Jesus? Blessed are the meek, blessed are the humble, blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are and I was blown away. I was like, well, this is nothing like I'd ever seen before. And in light of the program I'm working, this makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. And so I crazy as it seems, I was like, well, let me buy a Bible and read about this Jesus guy for myself from his own words. And I did that. And what I know now, over that year of reading, I just had an even more powerful spiritual experience. And I came to believe in a power that I specifically could name. And honestly, just so grateful that the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the its cohorts, it's all that they had afforded me this 10-year journey where I stayed sober day by day. I had community, I had people, I had a way to find a little freedom, peel back the layers, and yet and then land in this space where I was able to name for me my higher power, and then that set me on a crazy journey and that I never anticipated either. I mean, starting out at 7 years sober, looking for a higher power, going, I will not be a Christian, to at 10 plus years sober, sitting at a church and having the elder board ask me to take it over and be the pastor of the church for several months. I mean, it's mind blowing, and
it is, and it's so insightful and it's so inspiring. Your journey, and for other people to see and to understand that it is a process, and it is for yourself to explore your sobriety, because so many people, they white knuckle it, and they get stagnant and they don't know why they're still unhappy, and they end up relapsing and they emotionally relapse, and all these things start spiraling out of control. And it's just so good to hear your story and that experience that you had, to give people hope. Amen. And that after 7 years, and how honestly you talk about this, that you were struggling, and you weren't going to just settle with that.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you come that far and be sober and start this new life and this new journey to be miserable?
Amen.
And so for you to then take yourself on this journey and explore your sobriety and figure out what works for you with your higher power and find God and then help other people along the way, it's just so inspiring for people. I can't say that enough. And it just I want to shout it from the mountaintops that you really need to explore what recovery looks like for you. Yeah. Because it's different for everybody. And you don't know when you're going to find it. And you got to be patient.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's so well said. And, I think, a lot of people ask me, now, gosh, I've been a pastor for 2004. So
quite some time.
17 years.
Little knowledge.
And I mean, honestly, when they asked me, I'm like, well, I mean, really? Like, I didn't go to church. I don't know really anything. I know the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I barely know the Bible. Like, you want me to start leading this community and preach? But you know what I heard? I mean, honestly, what I heard was a mix of, I felt like, obviously now I know I was, hearing from my higher power for sure, but I also was hearing, the rooms. I was hearing the recovery grained in me, which says, you never turn down an AA request. You never turn down an AA request, which had served me and so many I know so well for so long, that I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this thing. And honestly, the craziest thing, and it's just the way it works sometimes, is I really didn't know. I didn't know how to preach. And God bless the pastor I took over for a time, Marcus. He was crazy, and I loved him, and I still love him. But I said, well, dude, I'm going to take over. I mean, I don't know how to preach. Like, you've had me come up and do testimonies and stuff like that. But how am I supposed to do this? He said, bro, he goes, you're going to be good. He goes, do your best to not cuss. He goes, I'm like, okay, don't cuss. And I blew that probably in the second or third week. And so he's like, try not to fall off the stage. And it was a 4-foot stage, so I think I did that perfectly. I never fell off the stage. And he said, don't adjust yourself from up front. Don't grab yourself. And so I was like, man, is that it? He's like, that's all you gotta do, bro. And so kind of set the bar low enough that I could experience, honestly, every week as I would walk up to, share a message and facilitate this experience, my faith would grow, because I knew how deficient and inept I was. And I would walk on the stage, and I would just be like 30 minutes of whoosh, and then I'd kind of come back into my body and be like, what just happened? And it's never, one good thing he said, it's never as good as you think it is, it's never as bad as you think it is. And I think the beauty for me in that was how it built my faith, because I really didn't know what I was doing, and God did, and how he would speak to his people through me, even in ways that I was never expecting. And so it's like, another good lesson that, I'm not in control of others. I'm not in control of their journey or their experience. God will speak to them how he will speak to them. And I, fortunately enough, get to play a part. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it all, that I get to even play a part in this process. So.
And a lot of what you're saying reminds me of what it feels like for someone in early recovery. Try not to do this, try not to fall, but it's okay.
Yes.
And really we complicate things so much in life.
We do.
And what I'm hearing you say is that if you trust the process, you trust your higher power, and you put one foot in front of the other, and you follow these basic things, as long as you have that faith, it's going to work out.
Amen. Amen.
And I think people really struggle with that in early recovery. They get sober and feel like they have a million things they need to do, and we need to just slow it down and go, okay, and listen to what speaks through you.
Totally.
Slow it down enough to hear that voice. So when God started speaking through you, what did that feel like? Can you describe that for us?
It's hard to describe. I mean, it's infused me in such a way, that for most people that know me, if they really if they spend time with me and they know me, I'm pretty up. There's not a lot that's going to get me down. I've been given so much from just the friends in my life, the community, my family, and I just. And so the feeling of it is just wow, even me, God, I can remember just thinking, this God stuff, you got to be like this kind of person to do this God stuff. I remember thinking of the people that went to church that were Christian and thinking that's not me. I did all this over here, and this disqualifies me. And so that was the beauty of a constant experience, even while preaching and being a pastor and being a broken dude, doing my best, we all are broken and just doing our best every day. I think that was just the beauty of it, to recognize that, God's going to take care of his people and use those of us, if we'll let him, even as we're struggling, And maybe, the beauty, Sanctuary Church, which I was fortunate enough to pastor for so long, the most beautiful thing of it is I had a bunch of Christian kids, or young adults or adults that had grown up in the church, and they were just all so worried about saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. They didn't know how to speak freely. And then the recovery crew that that I was connected to in my homes or whatever would come, and they would just because of their experience, what we know in recovery, you just say how you're feeling. You're supposed to just speak it out. And man, the freedom that this would give this Christian community was they'd be like, oh, we can say that? We can say that we were struggling, that we're depressed, that we were partying, that we were doing whatever it was. Okay. It was okay. I mean, it's been a beautiful, that's one of my favorite things about what I get to do, is just seeing the mix of people that don't think they really go together, but then they infuse each other with, the goodness of God, the grace of God in such a way that it, changes their lives.
It finds a way, for sure.
Totally.
What do you say to someone that's new in recovery and they come to you, because I'm sure it happens often, and they say, I'm doing the steps, they're telling me to look for this higher power, for this God, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. I don't know how to pray. What do I do?
Right.
What is your suggestion to people like that?
Well, and isn't that the beauty of recovery, of what we learn? It's really, it's not about my opinion. A crude saying for many years is, opinions are like assholes, everybody's got one. I get better for opinions are like belly buttons, everybody's got one. That's the less cruder one. But, I think the beauty of recovery, at least from what I learned right on, is that it was about experience, strength, and hope. And that's what really got me. I remember sitting in my hospital room, even though I didn't stay sober from that time, and seeing these few people just bounce into my room and have a light and share, just their experience, how truthfully joyful they were, and they were just sharing their experience. And so that's what, for any young crew that's just getting sober, it's just be true to that. I used just to share my experience with them and what I did and what I was shown, and then and try to point them in that flow of this is what worked for me, and this is what I did, and this is what was suggested, and this is what worked. But I mean, you said it so well. It's always with the youngins, and like I said, that's me. 20s, newly sober, 30s, it actually doesn't matter. 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
You're always in such a hurry to I gotta fix everything. It's like, whoa. You didn't break everything in 30 days, bro.
Right.
This is the journey. This is a lifelong journey. Let's just take it a day at a time. Slow down. So good. And that's the kind of stuff I share. A lot of people ask me why the stuff I do isn't, I don't have Christian treatment per se, and we call it faith driven down at South Shores and those places. But it's because it's man, I want to see people get to step into their recovery. I mean, the numbers out there, over 100,000 overdose deaths from April to April. So that's one every 11 minutes.
Tragic.
Our people are dying. So
yeah, they are.
More than I need them to think or believe how I think or believe, or you think or believe, I need them to just here, this is what I did. I surrendered. I took some suggestions. I went to some meetings. I got a sponsor.
Have the willingness.
And I had some fun.
Yeah, exactly. Sobriety can be fun. It can be a lot of fun. It needs to be. It needs to be fun, that's for sure. So tell us about what you do now. So I know you don't like to talk a lot of business, so we won't get into the nitty gritty of it, but you have some really cool things going on in your life. And for people that, that are getting sober, you have a lot going down in South County. For anyone that's not from Orange County, California, it is in the South County of Orange County, beautiful area, San Juan Capistrano, Dana Point.
Right, the
South
beach
Shores.
area.
Yeah, so can you just kind of tell everyone what you do out there?
Yeah, so South Shores recovery is, an inpatient, detox residential setting that I started with one of my best friends 7 years ago. It grew up out of Sanctuary House. Sanctuary House was, at one time, about 10 homes, of which I lived in to start 14 years ago, and just sought to share experience, making hope, mentor, lift up, men and women in the homes, and out of that, grew. I saved my monies and I wanted to start something where I could do really custom intentional boutique treatment, and really
Custom intentional boutique treatment.
I wanted to see
I
people.
love it.
I wanted them to be seen.
And I love you never call someone that you're working with a client. In the treatment industry, we call them clients. And when I first met you, that was one of the things right away. I'm like, oh, this is one of the good ones. You said they're my guests.
Yes.
You call them your guests.
They've been guests. They're the guests for years, and some of them want to step into. I mean, there's a lot out there now, especially working in the industry, but all over the country, of which I'm sure a lot of us that get to do this get to hear and see the stories. But they're family now. I mean, literally family. As a pastor, I'm even fortunate enough to, be asked to do the weddings. And bless the babies, and I mean, good God, like just such a
the cycle.
Oh, it's beautiful. So yeah, we call them guests because it was always like, hey, we're in this together, and I never wanted that separation. Appropriate clinical boundary, but not, like this. You're a part of us. This is your home for a time being, or maybe for the long haul. And that was what I created. I mean, we create those things out of like our own things, struggles, hurts, things we went through. And I think as I, more and more healed and did the work, it was like getting to provide a place of belonging and home, a place of safety, because as a kid, that wasn't my jam, as many of us are. It felt so right. And so that's South Shores. South Shores is that space, that foundational place. I love what I get to do. We were just a mellow 12 bed, and then we shrunk back to 6 in the 2018 shaking, and I've been working real hard to just be able to provide it for more, and we just we're able to grab these beautiful homes in San Juan, in the hills with trails, and so we'll be able to offer 18 people at a time the opportunity to step in and find safety and foundational work, and then pass them off to our awesome partners.
Yeah, I love it.
To continue the journey of the long-term flow. But it's been a journey, and I love all that. But all that is definitely a part of who I am and what I was called to.
You're definitely called to do it. That's for sure. You ooze it. It is your being. It is who you are. It really is. It is who you are. What would you say that you've learned the most from your guests? What have they taught you about yourself?
Oh man, I mean, we talk about custom and intentional and seeing them, and I think, I went through a time and the industry was expanding and it was growing, and so many bad players, so many great players, so many good players, and everybody was just the term heads on beds and was coming to play, and I had gotten in this for a specific reason. I was connected to every person that had ever gone through my homes, and did I knew everybody, and little by little, step by step, this thing grew, even beyond my vision and hope for it, and I think you get stuck in that kind of flow, and the ego gets stoked, even at that time, 26-7 years sober, and you're building because you can build, and you're and then it shook. And man, I think, the shaking was so good, because what it reminded me as we shook back down in 2019 and we shed, so much staff, and, brought me back, rather than flying around trying to connect with people to send people to us, I just got to go back into the homes and the little center and see people again. And that's what the crew remind me of. They just their stories, and just I see them. I want them to get to experience, and that's I feel like my role in their life. We have great clinicians, great case managers, techs that are there to just move them. But if I can just give them a little bit of like the possibility of their life, of what they can look forward to, maybe.
Yes, and having that connection, I think it's so important that you said that, because I find that too in my life, where we get really busy doing a lot of different things and working on different projects and traveling and meeting people. And when I'm able to come back into the center and spend some time, we're having a Friendsgiving at both the centers today, and go in there, and it's like, okay, here we are.
Yes.
And we're able to sit down next to each other, have a meal, talk, and have that one-on-one. I think it's so therapeutic. it's so rewarding. It's so humbling to bring it back to basics.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like we need to be doing that cleansing within ourselves and taking that time to pause and to breathe and to look at the person next to us and appreciate them.
Yeah.
You know, because we get so busy. So.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I appreciate about Jeremy. It's Jeremy here, you know, and the work he does, you know, trying to, you know, remove some of the old terminology of caseload and things like that, because it's, you know, it's really about people and seeing people, and I find that so refreshing. And I know for myself, you know, I tend to not fit in the church, even though, you know, I go to church, I work at church, those are parts of my life, but the language sometimes is so separating, and I've found over the course of my time, you know, serving Jesus and being a part of his movement, is that I find myself seeking different language so that I can find connection rather than barriers. And I really like that about, you know, what you guys are doing. And I think that's so important, you know, for what we do with people. So
absolutely, we need to be doing more of that. Well, what is your vision? What do you see in the future? What's the end goal for you?
Oh, you know, I mean, I've been, yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of things wrong. If you're watching this and you know me, you know me. You know, there's no
he's done it all.
There's no perfection here. You know, I've just sought to correct. I've sought to learn, and it seems like I've been given an opportunity to, this past year, you know, there's always people falling to overdoses, you know, and it's just been a part of the deal. But this past year, especially, maybe because the last 2.5 years I've been just reconnected after being a little bit disconnected for a couple of years. Like, it just, they hurt like more because I'm, you know, it's not faceless, you know, and it's not even like it's like my brother or my son or something like that deep, which has its own pain, but like just, you know, these kids or young men or women, like, you know, just their hopes. Like, I hear their hopes every day when I'm in, and then to see, you know, a poor decision take them this way, and then, you know, that quick.
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, that's been the thing that's been driving me a little more this year. Like, how, you know,
touching people, touching their lives, being that voice, having that impact on them.
Just doing whatever I can do, like, to do that. And so my vision is to, you know, have good people around me, and thank God I do, to check ourselves, to make sure we're doing things because we're feeling called, or there's purpose in it. You know, there's so many people wanting us to measure outcomes for different reasons, but it's like, yeah, let's do it because it's important to us, because this is Joe, Tom, you know, Lainey, whatever, just because they're people and we're connected to them. Let's really set them up for success. And so my hope this year, you know, I've been semi-retired from the faith flow in the sense of like not actively working. So my hope with all what we're doing now is that I will be able to re-step into that space where I can, you know, call them together. The last several years of Sanctuary, I was doing a spiritual conversation where I would read from the scriptures, you know, straight through, chapter by chapter, with a mixed crew of like people that, you know, grew up in church, people that are totally devout, people that have no desire for God, or think they have no desire, but they're kind of curious, people that are agnostic. And I would sit in this room and I would read this chapter out and I would share some foundational, you know, historical truth about it. And then I'd be like, okay, let's have a conversation. And it was that is life-giving to see people just get to, I'm like, you know, this is God, whether you believe it, you know, this is your book. These are these ancient truths of a people trying to find something more than themselves, you know, which is basically what we're all trying to do.
Exactly.
And so it's just been rad to do that, and I look forward to getting to do more of that in this year, 2022 coming up. Like, to just get to have those, guiding and facilitating those conversations, allowing people to come online with their beliefs, you know, even though I'm taking it from the Bible and I adore Jesus for my personal faith, like, you know, my journey just allows me to be free from, you know, other people's journey, like, because God's got them. God's got them. And I love getting to be, you know, a lot of people call me like the pastor to the non-Christian and the unchurched. And I'm like, Oh, heck yes.
That is so you. It is so you. And we need more people like you, because you have a way about you. Every time I sit and talk with you, just like now, it's like everything else melts away and you bring it back to center and to what's important, and who we really are underneath it all. And to just be authentic and genuine and honest.
Yeah.
And just get in touch with ourselves.
Amen.
And once you do that, everything else is going to fall into place. The right people are going to come into your life, the right opportunities, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah.
If you listen to that voice and follow your calling.
Right.
Which is what you did.
Oh, thank you for that. I thank you for that.
You.
No, thank you. And thank you for all you do and your crew and people. But God, like, we are so fortunate to live where we live and work where we work. Because, I mean, there is a ton of people, right now, over at your center, over at 1,000 centers in this area, just, I mean, really just stepping into doing their part to see someone's life change for today, to see someone not pick up death for today. And I'm like, whatever we can do to be bonded in that and pick each other up rather than tear each other down.
Yeah.
Like, I was one of the saddest things when I came into this thing 14 years ago is like, I had some friends I knew that did this and I thought we'd all be buddies, and the competition came in. There was a competition thing and I was like, oh, we don't just all try to figure out how to be better.
Yeah.
So I feel like over the last several years, I've found a community of owners and directors and tech worker, support staff, like people that are down, and I feel like, oh, cool, let's lift each other up.
Yeah.
Let's roll
lift
together.
Each other up. Absolutely. Well, thank you for being you.
Thank you.
I love you. You're one of my dearest friends. So if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to know more about South Shores, where can they find you? Where should they go?
Eric Beasy Botelho. I think I even have my cell number on my Facebook page.
Okay.
But I mean, anybody can text me at any time. It's one of my favorite things that people from years past can reach out and find me, and I'm sure there's for sure people that are like, Beasy, you suck.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, I go, okay, what year were you coming through? Oh yeah, I wasn't my best then, but my cell number is out there for everybody. Okay. And if I can be a resource and a help to anybody, I'll do it. If you're struggling as an owner, as anything, talk to me. I failed miserably at so many things, but it's not what defines me. It's what, I stayed sober perfectly. I admitted, my faults and defeats, and then did my best to learn. I've done my best to learn from them, and recognize that no matter all that, no matter all those things they don't define me or make me. Or you or us. Like we're just beautifully and wonderfully made. And we're beyond blessed. Like I'm beyond blessed, and so that's what I would like to get to, share a message of hope with people, because there's enough things trying to tear us down every day.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say anything else because that was so perfect. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Drop the mic.
Boom.
Because that was perfect.
Yay.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, you guys. I am out of town next week, so I will see you in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful weekend. Until next time, goodbye.
Oh, yeah.